In this video we're going to look at how I built my head puller and how successful it was. Spoiler alert, it's not quite worked yet, but I'm very close. Right, so let's run through the plan here. This is all been drilled, it's all 10mm thick steel. Okay, this piece goes on to where the rocker is currently fixed to the head, so we need 10 holes in here. It'll get bolted down on there. This bit here comes off that at an angle of 140 degrees. It has holes in it, M10 holes, for me to put bolts in, so it'll be threaded, and those bolts will push against the studs that I haven't broken. Okay, so I'll be putting the studs back in. Now there were meant to be 3 of these, and I didn't notice that I only got 2. So this one goes on the centre exhaust, so I'm going to have to fabricate another one of those out of some bits of steel that they let me just take from their bin, so I'll be able to find something there that's about the right size. So this one goes on the exhaust manifold, so it's like that and that. On the centre bit, this one goes on the exhaust, on the head again. This one goes, and then these go on either side, and this comes off that like this, comes off like that, and that angle is 102 degrees. Okay, so that's the plan. I'm just going to run through that again, but up on the rocker, so you can see a bit more. So the rocker will come off, and the timing chain will get fixed into place. This will get fixed in there, and this will come down at an angle of 140 degrees. And we'll have M10 bolts that can come in here, screw against that to push on the head. So this will hold the head to pull it up. We push down on the studs, that should pull, and we're pushing in the direction of the studs, so that should pull the head up. In order to ensure that this is really well fixed, it's on like that, okay, and then we have the ones that go on the exhaust come here with a 102 degree angle on, and then these two, that gets bolted to this. Okay, so we have a bolt that fixes on, and those 3 fix across there. Okay, so we're holding the head here and here, and we're pushing there, and so that should pull it off. Okay, so that's the plan. I'm not particularly confident, not in the inability of the puller to work, but in my ability to make it. So we're going to just start with this piece, try to get everything in the right place. If we can get that right and fitted on, we'll move on to the exhaust bits, and then we've got to get those very difficult angles, which will have to be right, and I'm not quite sure at this stage how I'm going to make sure I get those exactly right, because I don't particularly have tools that enable and facilitate that. But I figure this should be quite an interesting project, so that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so I have a new drill here which I've never used before. I've just put it together, hopefully properly, and before I try doing anything serious, I just want to see if it works at all. Hopefully it will. So we're just going to give it a go and see what happens. I'm not really impressed with that. Okay, well, that's actually easy to get a hole in, which is good. So now it's going to be a case of making sure I get them in the right place. So let's go through what we're going to do first. So this is the steel that's going on top of the rocker. It's 100mm across, 440 in length and 10mm deep. And so I need 10 holes on here because it fits onto the rocker studs. Okay, and between so we've got 2 rows. Right, the first row is 26.5mm from the side here, and the second one is 70.2mm from the side. And if I add those together, that gives me 70. Sorry, the difference between those. Yeah, well, so that means it's closer on one side than the other. Okay, so 26.5mm and 70.2mm. Okay, now for the holes themselves, between the first and second we have 103.55mm. Between the second and third, and between the third and fourth, we have 99.7mm, and for the last one we have 103.5mm again. And so I need to work out how much goes on the edge there when I've centered that up. Okay, and so we will mark out. Oh, shall we? Oh, yeah, we're going to mark out where we think they should go, and come back. So I've scribed out where I think I want the holes to go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it on here, but there are some scribe marks. So a couple of places I've got 2. I want the ones on the left, and that's because I mismeasured initially. So I don't know if we can see this line coming down here, and we've got lines going across there as well. So I measured from this side up. I'm just going to check it all again, because actually this one looks like it's much wider here and thinner here, but we're going to check it again. Yeah, I think I've got these ones across wrong, and then we'll go for the cutting, but we're going to measure that again. Okay, so I've made some adjustments. I've moved these lines down a little bit. So yeah, we're going to have a go at drilling now, and then we'll see. Because I need to be accurate, it took me a long time to get my initial hole in, and I was using a 2.5mm drill bit for that. I then took it out to 5mm, and now 8. I think the holes are pretty close. I need to take it out to 13mm, and potentially, you know, if I'm off a little bit, I could go a bit further and use washers, because this is just holding it in place. I don't have a 13mm bit, so I'm going to so it's set up to 8mm at the moment. I might do 10 and then go 13, but anyway, I won't come back until I've got it at 13, and we will once I've done that, we'll have a little test look on the rocker and see what it looks like, and see if it looks like it might actually fit. I've taken this out to 13mm now. I've ground down across the drill bit to make sure got no metal there, and I've wiped it down. I'm now going to take the rocker cover off and just try to lie this over the rocker studs and see if that fits. Make sure I've got that right before I progress on. So that's it. The rocker's still on there, and that would obviously have to come off so that it sits all the way flush. but if we go in, we can see these two on the end are just a little bit, you know, it could have used a little bit more room there. And on the other side, I got the same issue. Here we go. Okay, it looks like it. I don't know if it is sitting on them here. Yeah, it is. So it is sitting over them, but only just here. The ones in the middle are fine. They're all nicely centered. But the ones on the end not so good. And I need to make sure I've put it on the right way round as well, because I don't think they're quite the same distance from the end. So we'll have to check on that. So I think what I'll do now is I'll take the rocker off, I'll fix this in place, and that, I think, should then allow me, well, yeah, that will allow me then to try fitting that all the way on and make sure I've got it right. And I don't know what I'll do if I have to drill out those holes a bit more in some way, but that's what we're going to get right first. Right, so I've got the rocker all ready to come off, and I'm just making a note here that this notch, just in case I don't turn the engine and I want to put it back in exactly the same place for some reason, the notch is here with the hole for the screw there. There shouldn't be a notch on the other side. No, so that's how it goes back in when I want to put it back in if I haven't touched anything else. Chance of that is 0 probably, but just in case. Okay, so my measurements are just a little bit off. I had hoped I wouldn't need to be any more accurate than I was, because I was thinking it needed to only go over the studs here, but actually underneath here we've got these bits, and clearly I want it to sit all the way in like that so that it's flat. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to try to drill these holes out a little bit more where they're needed in order to get it to go down. And I think these middle ones are probably okay. Alright, but these ones on the end, on either end, probably aren't, especially this end. Now my drill press only goes, well, I've only been able to find a 13mm bit, so I guess I could have a look around and see if I can get something bigger. But my drill press really is only meant to take 13mm as well, so I'm not sure what to do here. So I'm just going to pop this back on and have a little think. I am thinking about using the cone-shaped drill to try to press it out, but that's you know, fine for a little bit, but isn't really appropriate for the kind of depth we're looking at here. Pooh. Well, we'll have a think about it and we'll come back. I think what I'm going to end up doing is trying to find in fact I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a bigger bit, and of course I don't have to drill out all the way through, I just need to drill out, you know, the underside here for the depth of the stud actually which, and actually for the depth of the stud, these studs, it probably is all the way through. Yeah, it is. So I do need to go all the way through to make it sit properly. Okay, well, that's next. It's the next day, and the plan is to just progress on as if nothing has happened. So with this piece, I've ordered a 16mm bit, and we're going to try to drill out as few holes as possible, but we'll drill them out to 16 and then use big ass washers in terms of depth, you know, maybe a couple of washers together to hold it in. So that's what's going on there. Whilst I'm waiting for that to arrive, we'll move on to this piece. So this piece goes along here like that. It gets 5 holes for it to put M10 studs through, M10 bolts through, and with the studs in place they will push against the stud. That's the plan. So we're going to drill out those now, and then that will get welded on here at an angle of 140 degrees, and it should all fit together nicely. At least that's the theory. Okay, so these are out to 8mm. They require an M10 drill bit. No, they require an M10 screw or bolt. Now, apparently an M10 requires an 8.4mm hole. Quite how you drill out one of those, I don't know. So these are out to 8mm, and I'm now going to try with my drill bit to see if I can create the threads. Okay, so I need to clean this off, but I've got this so that it takes its M10 bolts the whole way along. I started trying to use the drill, but it was getting stuck, so I swapped to doing it by hand with this. It's lucky I had the second one, so I'd take it out by hand, and then I would go through it again with this just to finish it off. This got so stuck that I can't actually get that piece out, so if anyone can tell me how I can get that chuck loose to remove my bit, I would be very pleased. Otherwise I'm stuck with one very expensive M10 threader. Yeah, so I'm going to clean this off now, get rid of all the little bits of metal. I'm then going to put this one's not quite straight, it's a shame. Anyway, I'm then going to put the bolts in, sticking out, and I'll hold it up to make sure that it's looks like it's pressing on all the studs. Okay, I've got you quite a, for me, weird videoing angle, but what I want to try to show you is that when I hold this up, I line up my 2 bolts on the end, then it looks like my 2 bolts in the middle are going to hit those studs as well. I hope that's showing through. So I still have to weld this onto the other piece at the right angle and in exactly the right place, but that looks like it should fit and will push against the studs, which is the plan. So hopefully that's good progress. So I'm still waiting on the screw bit. I need to make that as though the hole's bigger because I got the head bit wrong. But what I'm going to work on next is the bits that attach here to the exhaust, so that well, because I can do that next. Simple as that. So I'll work on the bits that attach. I then have to again weld bits on that come up. Alright, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to do this one step at a time. So that goes down like that. The others, I'm a little bit worried actually that I haven't ordered big enough pieces. So here, this will go here, like that, and it's an angle of 102 degrees. Okay, so it is going to be big enough. Yeah, easily. Okay, good. Yep, so that's going to go like that. This here will be welded to here, and it will also be bolted onto this. It'll be bolted onto this piece. That's how we get it all together. So that's the plan. Good progress so far today. I'm going to have a bit of break now though, because I'm getting a bit tired and I don't want to bugger it up. Right, so I've drilled the holes for the bits that go on the outside of the exhaust. I've still got to do the inside one. This bit then gets welded on here at an angle of 102 degrees. And so it will overlap with this and it will get bolted onto there, but I haven't bothered to drill those holes at this stage. Okay, so that's going to overlap there, angle of 102 degrees. If I do it 102 and I do it from back here, it's actually going to be slightly higher than if I do it from the corner at the front. So I just need to check my diagram. No, actually my diagram has it all in one bent piece. So I'm going to have to have a think about it. Anyway, I've got to work out where I weld it. That's the point of that, to make sure I get it in the right place. But that is coming, so I'm going to do that middle piece now. So we've got our middle piece, or two pieces here, so that they're fitted and they feel like they're nice and tight. Now those two need to be welded together, and because they are so thick, just putting it along the outside won't be able to do any good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them both off and grind the edges so that they're just not all the way in, but so that they're only touching in the middle. So effectively I have a V to weld on both sides. I'm then going to fit them back on. I'm going to tack weld them along here so that I have it in place. I'll then take it off and do more welding. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be off and on a few times now. So you can see what I've done here is I've just ground down both sides, so they're together as a V, so that I know I have to weld more across, but it means I'm getting further in there, so I can weld across and then really fatten it up. At least that's the theory. So I'm going to fit those back on and I'm going to tack weld the one side. Now that was a couple of tack welds just to get it in place and hold it, but you can see I've not got that. I clearly didn't have it quite tight, and if you look at it this way you can see it's not flat, so that hasn't quite worked. So I think I'm going to have to cut that and try again. But if I cut it and just get this flat, that might be enough. Because what I need to do is make sure that this is in the centre. Maybe I should have just measured it and done it that way. Probably I should have just measured it and done it that way. I'll measure it now and see where it is. Change up of approach. I cut them apart and I found centre on. I don't know if that line shows up, but I did the centre on both. I've just tack welded them in place and I'm now going to try fitting that to see if it fits, and if it does, all's well and good, and if not, so be it. I'm using my flux core on this because in theory it will do thicker metal better. So yeah, so we're gonna, well, hopefully it does. So I'll try fitting it now. Good, so they all went on fine, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to weld it up really hard and strong now and go from there. Okay, so that's now welded and hopefully is strong and ground down. So that's good. It's still a bit warm, so I'm not putting it on yet. My 16mm drill bit also turned up today. And this now fits. So I just took these two, well, these four, so that on either side, I didn't have clearly the measurement quite right. I took those out to 16. The ones in the middle all met up nicely. So that now fits on. So the other bit will come on and blah de blah de blah. But I think we're going to do that tomorrow now. Today I get to try to do the really difficult bit. So these bits get welded on here at an angle of 102 degrees. Okay, if I weld it on here this way, it'll be higher than if I weld it here, than if I weld it in the middle somewhere. Okay, so I have to weld it in exactly the right place. So this at 102 degrees, it lies flat against this, which goes at 140 degrees. Okay, so with that there, that's at 140. Which is like there. And then this needs to come on, and it would be flat against it like that at 102. Because that's the theory. And I'm trying to work out how to do this, because you can see, hopefully, on the camera, that this comes in about halfway. So it's not at a very convenient point for welding. But that might be my best option if I weld that. And then test measure this again. Because trying to, I'm very nervous about trying to weld this on here. Okay, because welding this on when it's on here, you know, we've got an aluminum head below, and I'm worried about heat in such an intense place so close. So yeah, I also think so yeah, so I'm just trying to work out how to do it. And I think, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off. It seems to be halfway when I'll check again, but it seems to be about halfway. So I'll put this at 102 degrees, tack weld it in place, put it back on, and pull this up to it and see if we get 102, 140, and if that works, I'll do the same here and the same on the middle one, and go from there. Yeah, I think that's the way we're going to go. So once I've got that in place, I don't know. I think I'd still have to have this here to weld it, but what I'll be able to do is fix it. Once I know it's right, I can clamp it against these and then put a couple of tacks in with some security that I'm not doing too much. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to try. Is I'm going to start by doing this one at 102 degrees. I'll come back, fit it, see if I've got this right. If I have, I'll do this one at 102 degrees, come back, fit it, see if it's right. If that's worked, I'll do the one in the middle as well, and we'll come back and have a look. Right, so that's my first attempt, and I've got it wrong. So you'll remember I was saying that it needs to be halfway. I measured again and again, and I decided actually it didn't. My diagrams show it being spot on, but there we are. And so I welded it in the corner. When I now place 140 degree on here, which is there. Which is, oh, hang on a minute. That's 140. Oh, I don't understand. Let's pull it out a bit. There we go, when I pull it out a bit, we can see the gap in there. So, why is that happening? When I push it all the way across. What's going on here? All snug down over here. Ah, there's the problem. Right, okay. This isn't actually fitting properly yet. Right, so we need to come back and look at this again. So I am missing... Oh, that's going to be a real problem. So, this is... Okay. I don't know that that's snug on this side now. So it goes. So I've got a different problem to what I thought, and I haven't got this right. And when I come around and look at it from this side, I can see that very clearly. Let me show you. So as we can see, it's nice and tight here, but it's come off at that end. Oh, I thought I had that sorted. Right, we're going to go back to that for now, then we'll come back to this. Okay, I just bolted it down, is all I did, and hopefully you can see there, we've got a good fit the whole way along. Same on the other side. I don't know if I'll be able to show you that as easily, but we'll try. Okay, so it's a nice snug fit. So I bolted it down. There isn't one here because that nut is on here. So we've got that in place, and so we can measure it again now. And when we do that, what we see is that I'm just a little bit off with my angle. So with this one at 140, there we go, with that at 140 it's just off. Okay, so, and we're going to do it in, sugar. Oh. So what the issue is here, the reason I'm getting different measurements is the head is actually curved here, and this corner is fouling. So I need to just cut this corner off so that I can get it nicely centered properly. So if I measure it slightly over so that it's not fouling on the corner, just see what that angle actually is. Oh. So I've actually got it, this is 142 degrees rather than 140. Okay, now I don't know if 2 degrees will make a lot of difference, but I do know that I was off by 0.5 millimetre up here and it made a heck of a difference. So before I go further, I'm going to cut this off, going to remeasure it, do it again. So we're moving along. Now I've done this and I've got this angle here. Perfect. Okay, so that's the whole way along. I think that is good. However, you can see that all of these are slightly off, particularly this one at the back. And when I measure them, none of them are the 102 degrees. And the thing is, I got my neighbour to help me out with this, and what he did is he held this piece in place at the 140. I laid this up against here and just tack welded it in there. So in theory it was lying against it. I tack welded it in. Okay. And so I figured, and then I went away and welded it, and I did that with all of them. And we measured and remeasured and had it at 140, and anyway we are where we are. I've now got to decide if I'm going to cut those and try to change the angle or just go for it. And I can tell you it's already been decided, I'm just going to go for it. So next step is these get bolted together, okay, or they have to have holes to bolt together. So we're going to drill through each of these and into the other one so that we have a starting point, and then we're going to take these off and drill out holes for bolts. I've just realised I can't do that because I haven't managed to get this free yet and I don't have another drill. And I have got no idea how to get that out. Bugger. Ta-da! Got it out. Put it in reverse, high speed, max torque. Wrapped a bit of cloth around here to protect it and clamped with so wrapped a bit of cloth around here to protect it. Clamped on with that. And gave it a few whacks as well. I tried tapping the chuck and things like that before. Anyway, it's off. Good, so I can go on. Okay, I've drilled out my pilot holes, and I've got it marked on the inside as well. So those are about to. I was just wondering if these are going to foul when it gets in close. So I'll be okay there. This is, I guess, the biggest worry, and I think that should be okay. Right, so I'm going to take this off, drill out those holes. I'm then going to give it a go. If it all works, I'm going to clean it all up nicely and have a nice thing. So we'll see. Right, who's ready to try this? Yeah? So the idea is you screw in the bolts, not this one because I haven't got anything there. This is all connected up and so it pulls the head off. Well, we're not going to try it today, and the reason being I don't have any nuts for my M8 bolts, so I'm going to have to buy those tomorrow since the shops are closed now. So we will have a go tomorrow is what we'll do, and hopefully we'll be pulling the head off. I know that I've still got these in, but they're all loose, so those should be taken out. They're all, I've just left them there so that I don't put them somewhere stupid. And we're going to do up our M8s and then give it a go. I've been out, I've bought bolts. An example is just here, nuts I mean. Got a whole bag of them. But I've decided that I'm not happy with the gap. Now I could do one or two things. I could put a shim in of some kind, so if I've got it pressing against it both top and bottom, then it's pressing in two places and that should balance it out, or something like that. And what I'm worried about is if this isn't putting pressure on this exactly right, and somehow it's going to put pressure on here in the wrong way and knock on impacts. Okay, I don't know if that's likely to happen or not, but that's the worry. Okay, I can't see any point in risking it. You know, for an extra hour or so's work, I see no point in risking damaging anything around here by having this angle even off by, you know, that little bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take each of these off in turn. I'm going to cut them off. I'm then going to bring it back over and get it flat. Use this to bolt it in place so that it's flat and against and all of that. Tack weld it in place, take it off, weld it up. And I'll do that with all of them. So yeah, so that's going to be the plan, is take them all off, cut them up, weld them up again, and go from there. I don't think I have any reason now not to try this. I've taken out the bolts that hold it on here. The earth is still attached. This hose is still here, but it's cut off because it went into the radiator, so there's nothing here. Obviously I've taken out the rocker, so this is just held on. So I think there's nothing now holding it in place. All of these bolts, the bottom ones, are loose, as in they all come out. Maybe I should just take them out. Well, I can't because of what I've put this on, but they're all very loose, so that won't hinder it. So I guess time lapse, and we'll see if we manage to get any movement. I'm very nervous because if this doesn't work, I'm worried about one of two things. First of all, I'm worried about damage, further damage, and secondly, I don't know what the next step would be. Okay, so I've started it, and just look at that. It's coming off. So we'll go on a bit more. Right, so I have a problem on that final hole in terms of the thread. This is just it's just spinning in there. It's I mean, it's got some grip, but it's skipping on it. The others are all pushing, and if we just have a quick look at how it's pushing off, we can see in here, the gap building up on this side very nicely, but it's not pushing on that side. So I've got a problem over there. Now I don't know if that's because I've only got the one stud pushing, which is a possibility, or if it's that I've got the thread not good enough. But we've certainly got something going here, so I'm going to have a little think about it. I'm so close here, just so close, but there is something here for the heater. It has 4 bolts. I took those out just to make sure that wasn't holding it in. This is still just spinning. You know, I mean, I can't turn it, but as soon as I put a wrench on it, it just turns. So I've loosened all of these off to take the pressure off the head. Okay, it's not slid back down, which in some ways is a little concerning, but too concerning. So here I'm either going to have to weld the bolt in on the other side. Now there's no actually room for that. Well, I could take it out to an M12 and see if that does it. But whichever it is, I'm stopping today because I am frustrated. I mean, I'm really pleased that it started pulling it off. Okay, you know, I'm confident I got something right. But a little bit concerned that it's only pulling at the one side. So yeah, so I might just put this up as is. It's going to be quite a long video as is. I might put it up as is because people might be able to give me some advice. Yeah, in fact, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to make this into a video. It's pretty long anyway. I was hoping to, you know, show it all working, but I do have this problem here. If anyone's got any thoughts about how to get around that, I would be very grateful. The other thing I've been thinking about is maybe I tried bolting one of these all the way in, but these are just 60 centimeters long. Just gets down to touch it, but doesn't put any pressure on the head that I have in there. But I was wondering about possibly getting longer one to go in here, but I don't think the problem is. I think the problem here is probably the thread, and that any pressure stops it from going in. So I think I had problems with the drill, and it might have been on that one where I was having the biggest problems. Well, it might not. I don't know. Oh, I can't remember. So close. Very frustrated. I decided to try one more thing. I decided to weld a nut on. Now ideally I would weld that on the underside, because that way it's pulling on it rather than on the top side like that, which I think would be stronger. But I'd have to take all of these off, I'd have to take this off, and so I didn't bother. The fact that I didn't bother worries me a little bit, because it's a sign I'm tired and I'm, you know, taking shortcuts. But I did it. It's now turning it slowly. So we're going to go back to a time lapse and see if this comes off. Well, not great, but it is coming off. So I've almost worked this out. I just haven't quite got there. If we let's come off the stand, if we come around and take a look, we can see we've got clear gap the whole way through. You can just about in there. You can see that I've got all the way through, the whole way around. Okay, you can see the red just there. So clearly I've got a much bigger gap on this side still, but it's coming. So not giving up just yet, but I'm now going to have to get that out and have another go. So I have removed the broken stud, put a new one in, and I'm going to continue from where I was. Well, this is frustrating. That's just spinning now. When I pulled the nut out, I could see that it's the thread seems to have gone. So I guess what that probably means is that I didn't get the nut welded on in exactly the right place or something. I don't know. Sugar. So close as well. I mean, you can see at this end just how far off it is, but the other end it's not going in any further. So if I come around, I mean, you can just see how easily it's coming away on this side. So it's really working here, but I've got something wrong with my threads over here. You know what we're going to do? We're going to try one more bolt, see if that sorts it. Right. I tried that and it just same problem. So I think what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go out and get some. These are 60mm. I'm going to go out and get some 100mm ones so I can thread through here. That would then give me about 40mm of push, I think, on the stud that is right up against the block. And hopefully that will help push this side up. So I know that stud comes out, so it's not that one that's holding it in, it's this one. So yeah, so I'm going to go and do that. Because I really don't fancy taking this off. I think what I'm going to have to do here is cut this off and put in a helicoil, because clearly I've gone wrong with the thread somehow. So we're going to start by trying this. Hopefully that works. If that works, then I'm going to fix this by putting a helicoil here. If it doesn't work, then I'll have to do a helicoil anyway, but either way that will be a few days before I can do it, because I don't have any helicoils in that kind of size. So we'll be back after I've gone and bought those bolts. Okay, this is already a hugely long episode, so I'm going to stop it here. So I got some longer bolts. Problem is the bolt actually won't fit into the hole, and so it's not actually applying. It doesn't allow the head to come off. So you need to have a stud there of some kind in order for this to work. So that's the first thing. I did have some effectively M8 helicoils. I tried fitting one of those, but I just had the same problem. And in fact, if you look at the bolt, I tried a couple. hopefully you can see that it's just stripping the thread off. So I'm going to order an M10 heli thread, because what that was actually a 3/8 I think, or something. Now I don't know if they're the same, but I think that should be an M8. Anyway, I tried that, it didn't work. So and I tried, just on the basis this was in the middle, just screwing this one in, and all that happened is this side came up and that side, this left hand side came up and this right hand side went down, and so it was at a worse angle, so I stopped there. So I'm going to stop the episode. I'm going to order an M10 helicoil. I'm going to install it, and the next time I try my head it will be with that installed. So close, I'm sure I'm so close.